What's going on, Twitch and YouTube? Welcome to episode 25 of the U.S.S. CERRITOS tutorial. I'm Zero Elite, and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. And if you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, helping me and supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. Today we've got about a 32-minute video. Um, we're going to be working on actually the windows on the saucer section of the CERRITOS. Um, if you've followed me on my other builds, you'll notice that I don't typically do a ton of windows on the ships unless I have to. Um, but in this case, on the Cerritos, um, the window pattern is kind of iconic on it, and it's similar in the sense of how they did the ship pattern and windows on the Galaxy class ship. So I really want to make sure that I convey that and show that in the build because that's going to be one of the characteristics that we're going to use to really help sell that this is a California class ship. I think the Cerritos is a California class. If I'm mistaken, let me know in the comments section. Now you can see here I've got a couple of blocks laid down. I've got 4 rows that I've done. I've got 3 straight lines which are 5 long, and then I've got the one here that this is more of like a trial where it's a 2 and then a 3, kind of going at an angle this way. And I'm going to try to do the same thing going this way. Um, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it because this is going to be kind of a long one, 32-minute episode today. But really just going to be winging it and going from there. That's really the best way I can describe this, and I'll talk about it definitely as I go with this build because doing the windows was not an easy part of this build. It's not super difficult. We're not going to be spending a ton of time on it, but we'll at least be spending 2 episodes on it because we have what we're going to, well, 3 episodes. We have what we're going to be doing today, and then once we get all the cutouts, we're going to be filling that in the next episode. But then we're going to come back to it later on um, when I actually rework the lip of the saucer. I decided at that point to slightly change the design of the windows and just making them a tad bit smaller, but the overall design of them is not going to change. Now, one thing that was key for me in starting these windows is that I'm starting on my straightaway access points on my saucer. So the very front middle and then the side middle points on the lip of the saucer. Um, I figured if I did that, it'll be easier to work my way around and fill in the corners, and just kind of meet myself in the middle. Or that was the idea anyway. It kind of worked out pretty well, ironically enough, and I'm pretty happy with how the windows are coming out. Um, I had originally intended where I was going to do windows on the underside of the saucer because it has it on the Cerritos, but if I do decide to do it, it's simply going to be a facade because otherwise the windows will be going where you'll be, actually walking, and I don't think that will look right. Um, not at least for this scale of the ship. So for right now, I'm only doing the windows on the top side, but that might change in the future. We're just going to have to see what happens. Um, I'm really trying not to restrict myself in the number of episodes that I'm going to do on this thing. I kind of just learned after doing the Discovery Enterprise that um, episode count is just going to fall where it's going to fall. This could end up being 50 episodes. It could be 80. It could be 100. I really won't know until we really get towards the end of it. We're making pretty steady progress on it, but then again, we're already on episode 25 when you haven't even hit the interior yet. I'm only bringing this up because I've had a couple of people ask me here and there if I'm done with this build or when I'm going to be working on other ships. And right now, the Cerritos is my main focus. I really want to get this ship done. And after I'm done with the Cerritos, then I'll be moving on to the Enterprise D. After that, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I'm kind of still looking in the comments section to see what people would like me to build, and then also looking at what I want to do too, um, and what I can get passionate about. But definitely drop those comments below. Let me know what ship builds you want to see me do, and you never know, if I get enough people asking for it and I can get passionate enough about it, I'll definitely build the ship because all the builds that I've done on my YouTube channel and Twitch have come from the community. They've been community requests. The Cerritos was one of my top builds. Um, Speaking of builds related to Cerritos, if there's anything that you want to see on the interior, now's the time to ask me to do it, because once I'm done working on the Cerritos, I'm not going to be taking any requests on the ship anymore. I had somebody the other day ask me about if I could add some stuff on the Discovery Enterprise, and I had somebody else ask me about something on like a really old build on the Millennium Falcon. And yeah, if it's a build that I'm not working on currently, like if it's a video from like 2 years ago, or if I'm currently working on another tutorial, chances are I'm no longer working on that video. So I mean, you can definitely drop your comments down for those older builds, but I won't likely be coming back to them. Um, I'm pretty much just focusing on the builds that I'm currently doing. Um, because that's the thing too, you can definitely mess with your builds and you can revisit them, but you don't want to mess with them too much. There's definitely going to reach a point where your ship is done, and it's just best to leave it alone. We're not there yet on the Cerritos. We've got a lot of work to do. There's a lot of layering that's going to come into this thing to help to bring this thing to life. Um, and this era ship has a lot more detail on the outside of the hull than Kirk's era does. That's just the way of it. So I mean, there's going to be a lot of things that we have to add to not only sell that this is a TNG era ship, but again, it's the California class. The windows are definitely going to help. You can see I'm just very gingerly adding rows to the left and right of each straightaway point, my front and then my two sides. You can see how I ever so slightly shifted that up by one, kind of thinking that maybe that's what I want to do. So now I'm going to shift everything else, and I'm just ever so slightly moving that up by one. And that kind of looks like now that it's shifting with the hull. Maybe not so much right here, because one thing too is that I'm more than likely going to have to go with the cut line for where these windows are shifting up to maybe try to make it look a little bit better formed. Um, I could be wrong. I believe that's what I ended up doing. Um, don't quote me on that. Might make one or two more changes before we get there. Um, but I'm pretty sure that's what I end up on. Because I've never actually done this type of window before. This is a first for me, actually. And if you've never done something before, best thing to do is just throw down what idea you have, see how it looks. If it needs help, if you need to make a couple of changes to it, you definitely can. Yeah, now you can see I'm shifting that other one up to match the cut line right here, and that's the whole reason why I'm moving it up right now. Because again, if you stick with your patterns all along your ship, you're more likely to have something that ends up looking a little bit nicer. As far as what I've been able to come up with anyway. That's one of the many rules that I go by. I always go by my cuts and use that as a reference, because it can definitely help you out. A case like this where we're not sure where we want to place the windows, we've already got the marker here with this outline for the next row up of the hull. So we might as well just double it down and use that as a base for our window placement. You see how I'm doing that there? I'm just using what I have on the ship that's pre-existing in order to help me out and to come up with the shape of these windows. Or at least that's the idea behind it. I think something like this is easily overlooked. Some people might not even be thinking like that. But, I've done enough of these builds at this point where it's kind of like second nature to me at this point. Because I've just gotten used to building the ships in this order, you know. And I think it definitely looks good. I did the same thing. What I'm doing right now, in the whole process of this build, in fact, I used the same steps to build the Disco Enterprise, the Discovery, Enterprise A, every single build that I've done so far. Um, and I think that one of the things I was curious about when I was first starting out on this build specifically was, can I take everything that I've learned from building Constitution class ships? Yeah, I made the Kelvin, I made the Discovery, I made the Vengeance, kinda. Um, but a lot of that, was focused on building different versions of the Constitution class. I've made like four of them at this point. And I'd say that'd be a big yes, because you can take a lot of these steps that you're going to learn over the course of this tutorial series, and you're going to be able to apply them to your own builds, because that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I've never built a TNG era ship. This is my first attempt. And yeah, we've got a lot of work to do, and you kind of have to envision a little bit all the layers that we're going to add onto it to bring the ship to life. But you kind of almost have to look at it like picture like a 3D model of the Cerritos, but without any detail. That's kind of where we're at right now. We've got a little bit of detail in, we've added the grays in, we've added the yellow stripes. Now we're starting to add the windows. So that's just kind of how I think when I make these ships, and that will definitely help you as well when you're building them too. Um, because it's definitely a process. These aren't ships that you can just throw together in a day. They take time to build. Even if you get on every single day and build, you're looking at least a 2 week build project more than likely. If you take your time with it, you're you know that it's just going to inflate from there. Um, both the outside of the Cerritos, I think I got that done in just over 2 weeks. I think the Discovery Enterprise was like right around that time frame, and you add on like another 2 weeks on top of that for the interior. So it was about a month, month's worth of work for the Disco Enterprise altogether. So these ships can definitely take a lot to do, but planning them out in this fashion is one of the best ways to go about it. It's going to help make this thing come out awesome. At this point, I'm just trying to figure out how this is looking. So far, I like it. It's a step in the right direction. So I'm just taking a leap of faith, and I'm going along my cut line. I'm making sure that the rows that I'm adding, they're all the same length. So they're 5 long total right now anyway. Eventually, when we come back, when we rework the lip of the hull, we're going to make them 4 long. But for right now, make them 5, just so yours is consistent with mine. Um, and then that's the thing too. You may not want to make them smaller at that point, because just because I'm making it smaller, there might be a couple people on the channel that think, I like them longer. So I make a point to show that stuff, because people have different tastes, they have different personalities, they like different things. And there's a million and one ways to build this thing. So when I usually do my variations and I make changes, I like to show that, because I think when you have a perfect tutorial from beginning to end, doesn't show you any mistakes, doesn't show you any changes, you're kind of just giving the person that's watching the video a disservice, because you're not showing them the reality of what you went through yourself to make that. So that's one of the reasons why I'm showing this. Just another layer, hopefully, to get by you watching this video, to get yourself, in the same state of mind that I am when I'm making this ship, and hopefully that'll help you um, with your build. A lot of the decision making that I make when I build these things, because that's the thing too. It's attention to detail. That's another big thing. I've had a lot of people comment on my channel, um, especially my Enterprise A. I think the Enterprise A is probably the number one that I get this comment on, but they'll all usually say the same thing, that the Enterprise A is one of the most beautiful Constitution classes that they've seen in Minecraft, or just starships that have been made on Minecraft in general. And that's just a testament of taking your time and not settling on something if it doesn't look good. Now, Enterprise A was a labor of love, because that ship took me, I mean, it took a couple of years to complete it. And if you factor in from when I was working on it from the 2009 Enterprise all the way up until I refitted it to the Enterprise A, I mean, we're looking at several years that I put into that ship. And all this stuff that we're doing now is stuff that I've learned from doing that in trial and error. And I still make those mistakes today, but mistakes are good, because they help us, to do things a little bit better. I've learned even from doing stuff on my previous builds. Every single build, I learned something a little bit. I try to do things just a little bit better, and hopefully that shows in the tutorial. You can see we're making some pretty good progress here. We're slowly but surely moving inward until we get to our angle here, but that's the idea to meet it. Um, when we get over here to this area, we're not going to go anything past the yellow line, and we won't be building over the gray. Um, so it'll actually be easier to fill in the windows on the back end of the saucer because of this piece right here that's sitting over the shuttle bay. There's not that much real estate back there to work with, so it'll be a little bit easier to do that. And I'm just going by the rule now that if I make one change on one side, I have to do it on the other side too. But this is quarterly, so there's 4 sections on the ship I have to repeat this on total is kind of what I'm saying here. Now we're getting more towards the angle. This is one of the more tricky parts of the build, at least for the windows, trying to get that curve right. And I'll be the first one to say, I don't think my windows are perfect. Even what you're going to see at the end of this video, they're not, I'm not going to say that they're perfect. Um, and I even admit that, I'm going to go back and make them just a tad bit smaller because they're just a little bit too big right now. But even then, um, this was just kind of my interpretation of doing it. I hope that you guys all appreciate this because this wasn't actually easy to do to come up with this pattern. It looks simple doing by me just placing it down, but this just took doing side by side, layer row by row, piece by piece, zooming out, taking a look at it, seeing if it flows, seeing if it looks right. If there's a row that looks out of place, taking it out and doing it again. But definitely having this cut line here, this is my saving grace because this is helping me to set up where every single row is going to go. That one might be a little too close. I don't know. That could be debatable. This is going to be the other challenge too, doing this interior with all these windows going along the lip of the saucer. It's definitely going to be a challenge to close off these rooms and not impede on any of that. It's definitely going to be interesting when we get in to do the interior on this ship. I can already say I've already started it. I've worked on engineering this weekend. I got to get on and work on it more this week. Um, but I recorded enough stuff over the weekend, at least to add another week's worth of content. But I need to really just commit like a couple of days to really just fleshing out the rest of the interior. But I've technically got one of the hardest parts done because now that I've got my um, kind of the format of or the layout of the interior, how it's going to go on the saucer section, the most important thing was engineering. And now that I know 100% it's going in the saucer, I've already added it in the saucer. Now I can figure out how everything else is going to go and how I'm going to make it to where I can still put in my bridge and make it to where you can get up and down from into the bridge without there being an issue. Because there are going to be a couple of problems by placing engineering directly, almost directly underneath the bridge. Getting to and from the bridge won't necessarily be an issue, but hiding it to a point where it's just not a turbo lift sticking out like a sore thumb is going to be somewhat of a challenge. Um, Still thinking about what I want to do. I might have to ultimately make just one slight liberty with this ship and shift where the actual turbo lift is on the bridge, or, and just have it at a different location as far as the layout of the bridge goes. But I think I could probably do that and get away with it. Um, but we're going to cross that bridge once we get there. But you can see the wheels are turning, and I'm thinking about this stuff. And this is stuff that this is definitely the mindset that you need to get yourself into when you're building these ships and start thinking about this stuff ahead of time. Because this way, by the time that you are ready to work on it, you've already dedicated so much brain power to it, you know, and you've already thought about it quite a bit, and everybody's different. Take notes if you need to, draw pictures of it, pull up reference material, do whatever you need to do to give yourself a refresher. um, but the point of it is to do the research ahead of time, so this way when you come in and do it, it's more organized. And that's something that I think is a testament with my ships, is that they're all very organized, both the outside of the ship and the inside. You don't see a lot of things just sticking out like a last minute thought, um, because I think that would be giving the ship that you're building a disservice. You don't see that when you watch Star Trek, when you're looking at the interiors. It's a very well thought out um, design that these beautiful production artists created. So that's something definitely to consider too. Take your time with it, plan it out, but above all, just try to have some fun with it. I was talking to somebody on my YouTube channel earlier today about that. In fact, they were thanking me for doing these videos, and that again, that there's not that much Star Trek out there, that people provide content for it, talk about it, make ships, you name it. And I'm one of those people. I think Star Trek is so vital right now for everybody. And when you add that with Minecraft, it's nothing but good. This building these ships on Minecraft has been so therapeutic for me, and it's helped to take my mind off things. I can just get lost in this and play for hours, and it's like, yo, what happened to the day? you know, I mean, it's not very good for adulting, but it's great when as far as your building stuff goes. Um, but if you're enjoying these videos, let me know in the comments section. What are you enjoying most about the YouTube channel? Um, what's some of the things that you've liked me making? What's some stuff that you want to see me make? Even what's your favorite Star Trek show? What's your favorite character? What stuff are you looking forward to them doing in the future? I know they've been talking a little bit about Picard season 2. They've really been kind of vague on it. Um, I think the site that I was on the other day, Trek News. I don't know if anybody checks out TrekNews.com or it's .net. It's one of those, but they're really good. They always have a lot of information on Star Trek, but it's kind of been light right now. There really hasn't been that much. I think the pandemic kind of screwed all that up, of course. But I know that Star Trek: Strange New Worlds is in the works. I'm really looking forward to that. I think that and Star Trek Lower Decks Season 2 are the shows that I'm most excited for. Um, I just want a hopeful and optimistic Star Trek with episodic serial style episodes. One of the coolest, I've been actually watching a lot of Star Trek The Next Generation, and it's actually funny because I've seen every episode of Star Trek The Next Generation probably 50 times. Because I grew up with it. When I got home from school, Star Trek would be on, and I'd be watching that, until 8 o'clock at night sometimes, just watching reruns. But this is actually the first time I've been gone back watching it as an adult, and some of it hasn't aged that well, but a lot of it really, I mean, it's aged so well, and a lot of the stories that they do on there, it's so relevant to today, and one of the things I really love about is the serial style storytelling, that there's just so much that you're getting on that show, so many different stories. And I hope that they start to do more of that with Discovery. I saw an article that they were talking about that the other day, that towards the end of season 3 they were getting more towards doing a serial format, and I don't think it would be a bad thing. I got to be honest, I think season 3 should be a testament that the whole extended mystery box season long story is done with. It doesn't work anymore. Every single show and its dad's sister has done it. Um, Wayward Pines, The Walking Dead. Like, there's so many shows that they have this whole mystery box plot, and like it was cool for Star Trek at first, but it's like 3 seasons of it. It's like you can only jam in so many mysteries after mysteries before it's just like, okay, what else do you got? You know? And I hope that season 4 Discovery in the future, that they just, it would be cool if almost every episode has a different plot, different story focus point, and completely different. I mean, that's not to say that you can't have two-parters and stuff like that, because they used to do that with Next Gen and TOS and all that all the time. So you can definitely do that stuff, but start doing more original stories. Let the writers cut loose, tell some personal stories, but just keep it hopeful and optimistic. I think if they do that, Star Trek fans will be pretty happy. Um, I know for myself, I'm just waiting to get like a super optimistic Star Trek. Um, because one of my favorite Star Treks, believe it or not, and I've said it all the time on my YouTube channel, Star Trek: The Voyage Home. And I love that movie so much because it's so out of the norm of what sequels are. It has no main villain. There's no super budget. They're literally walking around the streets of San Francisco. I think it's probably one of the lowest budgets Star Trek movies that they probably ever made. I mean, I know they had a lot of special effects in it, so it probably. I mean, I know it cost them a lot of money to do it, but the point is that um, they relied on the story. They relied on the characters to tell a great story in the movies, and they need to bring that back so bad right now. You know, I think especially now in the past 10 years with how movies have gotten, it's all a CGI spectacle popcorn fest where it doesn't require you to think about it, and they don't spend any time building the characters, and then the movie or show flops, and you wonder why. And it's you didn't spend any time building up the characters. It's like this is why people came back to watch Star Trek 30 years after it came off the air, because you seriously developed these characters between Spock, Kirk, and McCoy, Uhura, Sulu, Scotty, all of them, so much so that people fell in love with them and wanted to stay on this journey with them. And that's not to say that you can't have big action scenes, because even the Star Trek movies, they've done that. They've made them a spectacle. Like the motion picture for its time, it was a big spectacle movie. It was more cerebral, but for its time, like it was a real big budget, big deal. But I wish that they would just, take it back to how they used to make movies, and I think they would surprise people. I know that not everybody likes him, but Quentin Tarantino is a great example of that. I'm not saying I want to see a Quentin Tarantino Star Trek. I honestly don't even know that that would be good. But I got to tell you, if um, he actually came at it with the same attitude as Gene Roddenberry, I would be open to it. I just don't want to see a Star Trek where you're seeing Shatner or seeing Chris Pine um, do like a ridiculously hammed up uh, William Shatner impression and dropping f bombs. I don't think anybody wants to see that, you know. Um, but if he has a really good idea, I think Star Trek fans will give it a chance. I mean, they gave J.J. Abrams a chance, and I think he got a bad rub with it, because the 2009 movie, for what it was pretty good. It wasn't a bad movie. Star Trek Into Darkness, I think honestly would have been better if he just said ahead of time, "Hey, this is Khan," you know, and just stop beating around the bush. I think everybody knew it ahead of time. Yeah, it leaked, but everybody knew it, and they just kind of jerked everybody around. I think people would have enjoyed it more if they just knew. Um, yeah, I've kind of gone off topic a little bit, but still try to talk about some stuff here and there while I'm doing these videos to try to fill in the video and not have just dead air. So try to talk about a lot of stuff that I think is related to the build, and Star Trek in general. Um, I think definitely fits that bill, and I love talking about Star Trek. So if anybody has that was sitting through this episode wants to talk about any of the stuff that I mentioned, feel free. Talk about it in the chat section. I'm usually pretty responsive in the chat, and definitely love to hear your thoughts on that stuff as well. Would you like to see a truer to form Star Trek movie? It's pretty much what the question is. Why or why not? Do you like the action extravaganza spectacles that they release now? Even Star Trek Beyond. I think Star Trek Beyond was actually a pretty decent movie. I think the one mistake though that they made with Star Trek Beyond was the villain. I love Idris Elba, but if it were me, I wouldn't have even had a villain for Star Trek 3. I would have had them facing a problem. I would have made it to like I think the chick, her I know somebody's gonna be like, "Come on, man, you should have known her name, Keela, whatever the chick that was on the planet that they meet." They should have made it that like something was happening to their planet, and they had to morally make a decision to help them. Kind of like the idea that they had to deal with at the beginning of Star Trek 2. That's cool stuff to me. That's like classic Star Trek. You're dealing with moral dilemmas. I think that's pretty cool. And it's been a really long time since like the crew of the Enterprise has faced a problem. um, I'm just so tired of like who's the next villain? What's the next villain going to be? It's like not even just Star Trek. It's like every single big Hollywood movie that comes out now. They have the main origin story and then the sequels. Who's the next villain? Who's the next villain? It's like how many movies are you going to do the same thing before it gets old? You know, and they need to branch out a little bit because some of those older movies, I'm telling you, I mean, they hold up today. If you watch, not necessarily Star Trek 1, but you could watch Star Trek 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I say you could watch 2, 3, and 4, and it is a consistent story. You could throw 5 in there, but some time has gone by. You can throw 6 in there, and some time has gone by, but still, I think most people would probably agree with this, that from 2 to the end of the series with the Shatner movies, that it was a consistent story from beginning to end. And they were all a little bit different. But even the Shatner movies, they had the same problem. Most of them, it was all about who the next villain was going to be. And at least with those movies, they put a little bit more heart into it. Like um, the Final Frontier wasn't. I don't think it was a bad movie, but it definitely wasn't the best ones out of the films. But I think that the crew was at their best in that film. But the story itself was something to be desired. But I what else can I say? It's just one of those things that I think even that movie, in some ways, is still better than some of the new movies that come out today. You know, is they just developed characters different back then, I guess. But I'm still hopeful what they're going to do with Star Trek. I mean, it seems Star Trek's got a bright future. At least they're doing stuff again. Because I remember that there was a time after Enterprise came out, like there was literally nothing until Star Trek Into Darkness came out. Well, I take that back. Well, the 2009 Enterprise or 2009 Star Trek, I mean. But I think the only thing that we got between then, from Star Trek Enterprise to the JJ reboot, was Star Trek Online. I'm pretty sure that came out before the movie. I'm pretty certain of it. But yeah, that was a pretty long dry spot where we didn't get anything. So it's definitely a good time to be a Star Trek fan right now. So that's why I try not to give those shows too much crap, and I'll still watch them. And I'm glad I stuck with Discovery. I really am, because the show got better. And I think in the beginning they really didn't want to listen to what the fans had to say. But I think that they've really put their best foot forward now, and they've proven that any great Star Trek show, they don't get into their stride until season 2. And I think Discovery has proven that. Season 1 was all right, very, very predictable. Season 2 was better, but still, some areas was predictable. Season 3 was pretty decent, but still, at that point, didn't care about the season long plot point mystery box that people are just getting tired of. But we've gotten some work done today. Doesn't seem like it, but we've just completed almost this whole section of the windows. Looking at it from this distance, it looks pretty good. We haven't added in the glass yet, but we will. But I think that's going to wrap us up today. We're looking pretty decent, and we're going to get some more stuff done throughout this week. So definitely stay with me through the rest of this tutorial. We've got a lot to do. Um, But other than that, I think that's going to about do it. I just want to thank everybody for tuning in today's content. And if you did enjoy this video, please help me out and hit that like and subscribe button and helping me in supporting the channel. I cannot thank you enough for that. If you're on YouTube, please hit that notification on button so when my new videos pop, you get that notification. And also, be sure to check out my streams at twitch.tv/Zero Elite. In fact, you can always catch my new live stream Sundays through Thursdays, typically between 9 and 10 p.m. Eastern. And you can also catch my new Starship Evo builds and my new Starship Evo builds dropping on Mondays, and the Minecraft builds dropping Tuesdays through Fridays. Those videos drop at 10 a.m. Eastern on YouTube, and you can follow me on youtube.com/C/Zero Elite. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for me. Just want to thank everybody again for tuning in today's video. Hope everybody has a happy and safe week, and I'll catch you on the next episode.